When the indestructible force of chaos faces the unyielding might of tyranny, the cosmos trembles. Lobo, the main man, takes on the godlike ruler of Apokolips, Darkseid, in a battle that will shake the very fabric of reality. But when the dust settles, who will remain standing? Welcome to Myths and Mythologies, the ultimate destination for tales of legendary clashes, timeless heroes, and godlike powers. Here, we bring epic confrontations and mythological narratives to life, unraveling the stories behind the battles that define universes. If you're as excited as we are about this epic showdown, don't forget to hit that like button, share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to Myths and Mythologies for more incredible stories. Join us on this journey through the realms of gods and legends. Deep within the shadowed expanse of Apokolips, a cosmic furnace of fire and malice, Darkseid brooded upon his obsidian throne. The Lord of Apokolips, with his granite visage and eyes burning with the Omega effect, had spent millennia weaving his plans for ultimate control over all existence. His ultimate goal, the anti-life equation, remained elusive, scattered across the vast cosmos. However, whispers from his vast network of spies had delivered an intriguing lead. A fragment of the equation lay hidden in a forsaken corner of the galaxy, locked in the possession of a violent, near unkillable mercenary. This mercenary was none other than Lobo, the main man. A Czarnian, Lobo was the last of his kind, having obliterated his own race for fun. Bounty hunter, killer, and intergalactic chaos incarnate, Lobo thrived on destruction. His name echoed through the galaxies as a force of unbridled carnage. For most beings, he was a problem that simply couldn't be solved. Immortal, relentless, and utterly unpredictable. Darkseid's spies reported that Lobo had unknowingly come into possession of a relic during one of his many reckless escapades. This relic, a nondescript black shard, was a vital piece of the anti-life equation. But Lobo, in typical fashion, had no clue of its significance. To him, it was just another trinket in his collection of loot and trophies, collecting dust aboard his cruiser, the Space Hog. Darkseid had no intention of negotiating with Lobo. The Czarnian was a nuisance, a wild dog that needed to be put down. As the ruler of Apokolips summoned his elite warrior, Kalibak, and his army of parademons, he commanded them to retrieve the shard at all costs. "Bring me the relic and the head of the bounty hunter," Darkseid growled. His Omega beams flared for emphasis, carving fiery trails through the air. But if Darkseid had underestimated anyone in his long existence, it was Lobo. The parademons descended upon Lobo while he was enjoying a pint of his favorite alien brew at a grimy bar on a lawless asteroid. The Czarnian, dressed in his signature leather vest, sunglasses and chains, was in the middle of a brawl over a gambling dispute when the first wave of parademons attacked. Who invited these ugly mugs to the party? Lobo grinned, cracking his knuckles as the swarm of winged soldiers advanced. The fight was short and brutal. Lobo tore through them like paper, wielding his signature chainhook with a ferocity that turned the asteroid into a graveyard of mangled parademons. After the dust settled, Lobo inspected one of the dead soldiers and found the insignia of Apokolips emblazoned on its chest. He scratched his chin thoughtfully. "Darkseid, huh? Big guy's got a rep. Guess he wants something from me." Amused rather than intimidated, Lobo climbed aboard the Space Hog, revved up its roaring engines, and charted a course straight to Apokolips. If Darkseid wanted a fight, the main man was more than happy to oblige. On Apokolips, Darkseid watched as Lobo's cruiser broke through the fire pits and storm clouds of his planet. The bounty hunter landed in the center of the war-torn wasteland, stepping off his bike with a cigar clenched between his teeth and a shotgun slung over his shoulder. "You rang?" Lobo bellowed, his voice echoing across the molten plains. Darkseid rose from his throne, his imposing figure towering over the battlefield. His crimson omega eyes locked onto Lobo, who smirked in defiance. "You are either brave or foolish, Czarnian, to come here willingly," Darkseid declared, his deep voice reverberating like a storm. "You have something I require, and you will surrender it, or perish." Lobo spat out his cigar and drew his chain hook. "The main man don't surrender, but you're about to wish you never messed with me." And so, the stage was set. Two of the most unrelenting forces in the universe prepared to clash. One fought for domination, the other for sheer chaotic fun. Lobo and Darkseid stood at the center of Apokolips, two cosmic forces poised for battle. The air was thick with heat and malice, the very ground trembling under their presence. Lobo, grinning ear to ear, cracked his knuckles, while Darkseid, unmoving, exuded an aura of absolute dominance. Darkseid was the first to strike. Without a word, his crimson omega beams erupted from his eyes, snaking through the air toward Lobo. The main man barely dodged, leaping high into the air as the beams obliterated a towering rock formation behind him. "You call that an attack? My grandma could do better!" Lobo jeered, whipping his chain hook toward Darkseid. The hook struck true, wrapping around Darkseid's wrist. Lobo yanked with all his might, pulling the Lord of Apokolips off balance. "Come here, you big lug!" Lobo bellowed, charging forward with his shotgun blazing. But Darkseid didn't falter. He grabbed the chain and with a surge of power pulled Lobo toward him instead. The Czarnian hurtled through the air, landing directly in Darkseid's grip. Before Lobo could react, Darkseid delivered a bone-crushing punch to his chest, sending him flying into the molten ground. The impact created a crater, and for the first time, Lobo coughed up blood. "You are outmatched, Czarnian," Darkseid declared, stepping closer. "Your bravado means nothing in the face of true power." Lobo, struggling to his feet, wiped the blood from his mouth and grinned defiantly. "You hit hard, I'll give you that, but the main man don't go down easy." Fueled by his indomitable spirit, Lobo charged again, this time wielding twin plasma blades. He moved with blinding speed, slashing and stabbing with precision. Darkseid, however, remained an impenetrable wall, blocking the strikes with his bare hands. Then, with a single motion, he shattered both blades and struck Lobo with a backhand that echoed like thunder. The Czarnian was thrown hundreds of feet, crashing into a massive tower of fire pits. Groaning, he pulled himself from the rubble, his body already regenerating. "Is that all you got, Rockface?" he taunted, though his movements were slower now. Darkseid approached, his towering form casting a shadow over Lobo. "Your resilience is commendable, but ultimately futile." With a wave of his hand, Darkseid summoned a massive surge of omega energy. The ground split apart as streams of red energy shot toward Lobo, engulfing him in an explosion that shook the entire planet. When the dust cleared, Lobo was still standing, but barely. His body was charred and broken, his regeneration struggling to keep up. He gritted his teeth, his usual bravado replaced by a grim determination. "You think this is enough to stop me?" Darkseid's expression was cold, merciless. "You are finished." He raised his hand, channeling his full omega power into one final blast. The beam struck Lobo directly, overwhelming even his legendary durability. Lobo screamed, his body disintegrating under the sheer force of the attack. As the light faded, all that remained of Lobo was his smoldering chain, lying in the scorched ground. Darkseid stood victorious, his eyes dimming as he surveyed the battlefield. "You were a worthy adversary," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "But none can defy Darkseid." With the fragment of the anti-life equation now within his grasp, Darkseid turned and walked back to his throne. The fires of Apokolips burned brighter than ever, a testament to the power of its ruler. Lobo, the main man, had met his match, and for the first time, the indomitable Czarnian had fallen.